Princess pulls the plug on a major U.S. cruise port, hundreds fall sick on a luxury liner, again, and a brand new ship is already setting records. And there are some shocking mid-ocean rescue reminders of why we need cruise insurance. This week's cruise news is wild, so let's get right into it. First, let's talk about a story that is rattling cruisers who like to cruise out of Texas. That's actually where my next cruise is out of, so I'm packing right now, heading out in a couple of days. So Princess Cruises is pulling out all of their sailings from Galveston for the 2026-27 winter season. Now, the cruise line had originally planned to swap out their Regal Princess for Majestic Princess, but that's now off the table, at least for now. Majestic Princess will be redeployed elsewhere, although the new itineraries have not yet been announced. So if you were booked from Galveston with Princess, you'll receive a full refund, and they'll help you with making alternate arrangements. But make no mistake, this is a major change for one of the fastest growing U.S. cruise ports. And it's kind of shocking to people considering the port just set a record with 1.6 million passengers in 2024 and expects even more this year. With Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and MSC expanding into Galveston, including a brand new terminal opening, Princess is going against the trend and they're pulling back. So what do you think about this? Is this a smart move, or is Princess missing out on what could be a booming market? Next sounds like a familiar story because I just covered it last week. Oh man, it is the year of the Norovirus. Everybody puking and pooping. Over 200 passengers and 17 crew members on Cunard's Queen Mary 2 fell ill with norovirus during a recent transatlantic voyage. The outbreak was reported to the CDC last month and prompted heightened cleaning, isolation protocols, sample collection, all the same song and dance they always do when there's a norovirus outbreak. Now, I just talked about this last week that Princess has been plagued with norovirus issues. They had 2 consecutive sailings that had hundreds of people sick. And if you're not familiar, norovirus is what we often call colloquially the stomach flu. And it's not a good time for anyone. And when it comes to the floating petri dishes of cruise ships, it's especially dangerous because it's super contagious and it spreads super fast in these contained environments. This is now the 12th, yes, the 12th gastrointestinal outbreak on cruise ships just this year. And again, it follows last week's story that I talked about. So if you're taking a cruise soon, follow some general practice rules. I say this all the time. I even have to remind myself. I consider myself a little OCD and hygienic, but on a cruise ship, you have to be heightened hygienic. Wash your hands frequently, I mean constantly. Avoid buffet utensils that maybe have been touched by others, which is sometimes hard to do. For me, I just avoid the buffet entirely, and don't share food and drinks with others, and just be really careful, obviously, when you're putting your hands in your mouth. Now, the virus spreads really fast, and you don't want to spend your vacation sick in your tiny little stateroom bathroom. And actually, my best friend and cruise buddy who's heading out with me to Galveston is at the tail end of norovirus, and she caught that at home. So it's everywhere right now. But I want to know, have you ever caught norovirus on a ship, or have you ever gotten sick on a ship? What are your go-to tips for staying healthy at sea? I always bring Clorox wipes. I wipe down the remote control. I wipe down the vents. I don't know if that's hygiene theater or if it actually makes a difference, but at least it gives me some peace of mind. And until recently, when I got the flu on Mardi Gras, which I documented a couple of months ago, knock on wood, I had not ever gotten sick on a cruise ship. So I'm going to keep on being hygienic and hopefully keep avoiding things like norovirus. Seems to be the year of the new ships. MSC World was just delivered. MSC Cruises officially took delivery of its newest flagship, MSC World America, during this big hoopla in France. The ship will be named in Miami on April 9th and will start her inaugural Caribbean sailings just a few days later. She's the largest ship MSC has ever made specifically for the North American market. And I'm really excited by this because it's supposed to offer a mix of their kind of classic European design, but also with American-style comforts. It's supposed to include 7 themed neighborhoods and, of course, the yacht club, which people do seem to rave about. And this is going to be the biggest MSC yacht club in the Caribbean. But that wasn't all that MSC was celebrating. They also held the coin ceremony for MSC World Asia, which will set sail in the Mediterranean starting in 2026, and announce construction of MSC World Atlantic, a new ship set to launch from Port Canaveral in 2027. So it's clear MSC is going big. They're investing major dollars in growth, and they're also setting sustainability records. World America is now the most energy efficient cruise ship that's out there, according to the IMO. So I want to know what you think about MSC's expansion into the US market. For me personally, I've never been the biggest MSC fan, but I'll tell you I've come around on them a lot. I'll never again sail the old MSC ships. I sailed Magnifica once, and it was literally my worst cruise experience, the worst cruise ship ever. But I do love their private island. I love their newer ships like Seascape and Seaside, but it doesn't feel like the traditional American cruise experience. And I'm all about international experiences and diversity and travel, but cruising with MSC just does not feel like a traditional American cruise line. So I am curious to see how this new tailored to the American market World America ship is going to look, and also how it's going to feel from a cruise experience standpoint. So I want to know, what do you think about MSC? And are you excited about these new ships, especially World America? New ships and big ships. That's the story again of the year. It's not just MSC, but it's also Norwegian. Norwegian Cruise Line, they have their newest ship. It's Norwegian Aqua. It's now sailing, and she's 10% larger than her Prima class predecessors. Now, Aqua includes a much larger atrium, more outdoor deck space, a bigger Vibe beach club, and 123 Haven suites, including the line's first three bedroom duplexes. That actually sounds really interesting. I'm curious what that would be all about. They've even added a new Thai specialty restaurant and a full plant-based venue called Plantery. Norwegian says that they've designed Aqua based on direct guest feedback from their previous ships. And their goal is better traffic flow, more relaxation space, cooler, more chill vibes, and fewer what they call pinch points. And we all know what those are on a cruise ship, where it's just super congested during busy times. Early reviews say it does feel more intuitive and easy to navigate. And as much as I cruise, I still get lost on cruise ships. I recently got off Carnival Horizon, and it's a Vista class ship, and I've actually sailed Vista before, so I feel like I should know how to navigate it, but I was constantly getting turned around and twisted and turned and lost. So I'm really excited to see that cruise lines are putting thought into making their ships intuitive and easy to navigate. So if you've sailed Prima or Viva and you feel like they were a bit cramped and or difficult to navigate, Aqua might win you over. So I want to know, what do you think about this trend toward scaling up ships? And if you had any feedback directly for the cruise lines in terms of what you would like to see in these new ships, what would it be? So I recently covered a story about a man who got the flu on a cruise ship and was hospitalized down in the med center for 3 days and got hit with a $50,000 bill. But it happened again where someone got hit with a big medical emergency out to sea. A Wisconsin man had to be airlifted from a Holland America cruise ship after suffering 4 strokes at sea. He and his wife were 10 days into a 35-day sailing when he collapsed. Now, this guy's name is Greg Tominski, and the medical staff on the ship determined that he had experienced 4 strokes within just a series of hours. And they urgently coordinated a Coast Guard rescue off the coast of Hawaii. Now, thankfully, good news in this case, Tominski survived, and he was able to thank his rescuers personally via video. But let this be your reminder. I know I sound like a broken drum. Medical emergencies can happen at sea. Med evacuations can happen at sea. They're very expensive. And if you don't have travel insurance, the cost for medevac and hospitalization can be astronomical and can financially ruin you. And even lesser things than 4 strokes can be extremely costly. Now, I put together a free travel insurance guide. I have it here, also linked down in the comments. So check it out and just make sure that you're covered. So I want to know your thoughts on travel insurance. Do you see it as an absolute necessity? Do you avoid it? Do you feel like it's a waste of money? I want to know your thoughts on it. And friendly reminder, because I didn't know this for a long time, our health insurance does not always cover us when we are out at sea or abroad. So before you take a stance on travel insurance, make sure you check with your health insurance policy to see if you're covered or not. Another day, another travel advisory. And again, it's Nassau. One of my favorite ports, but it gets a lot of hate. The US State Department just updated its travel warning for the Bahamas, asking Americans to exercise increased caution due to a rise in violent crime, sexual assaults, and unregulated water activities. Now, the warning highlights areas in Nassau, but also Freeport, not my favorite port, probably my least favorite port, along with dangers around vacation rentals lacking security. So it's not necessarily cruise specific, just kind of in these areas. Now, this is still a level 2 advisory. It's not quite a don't go, but it's a heads up. And I always tell people to take these advisories with a grain of salt because people ask me about them all the time. Before you get all hot and bothered about a travel advisory, I encourage you to go to the US State Department and look at the exhaustive list of travel advisories they have in very popular destinations, and it might surprise you how common they are. But it's definitely something you should be mindful of course. Now, specifically, and this one's a little bit new, and I do want to make sure people pay attention to this, travelers are urged to avoid unlicensed jet ski operators. Now, there's a story I covered last week about Holland America Line. There was a passenger who actually died during a jet ski excursion. So in the Bahamas, there's kind of a tendency for jet ski operators to not be well regulated and not operate safely. So I love jet ski excursions. I do them on my own independently outside of the cruise line all the time. But before you do it, just make sure you're working with a reputable and licensed operator. Also make sure that you stay in well-secured areas, stay in touristy areas. If you're going to Nassau, do not venture into the over-the-hill area. That's where the majority of crime happens. And be careful with your drinks, because I've heard a lot of stories, unfortunately, about drinks being spiked. So I always encourage folks to be really mindful of that. So I want to know your thoughts on cruising to the Bahamas. Obviously, one of the most popular cruise port destinations in the world for Americans. But do you think that it's dangerous? What do you think? Is it just a Nassau issue? And there are other Bahamian locations too that cruise ports call upon. Personally, it's not going to change my thoughts. I love the Bahamas. I love Nassau. And Nassau is one of my favorites. So it's not going to change my thought at all. But I always want to make sure I'm mindful in being safe and following common sense. Oh, and by the way, I have a free Nassau port guide. I link it down in the comments. You can also find it here. So go check it out. And finally, I want to address the question I get asked all of the time, probably the number one question I get asked all the time, which is, how do you afford to cruise so often? Well, it's not exactly the most polite question, but I'm an open book, so I will answer. It's two ways. One, I am a travel agent, so I book my own trips. I actually don't book other people too often. I book my own trips and I earn a commission on my own trips. But the big way that I'm able to cruise, number two, is through casino cruise offers. A lot of folks newer to cruising may not realize that many cruise lines, not Disney, they don't have a casino, they offer comped sailing sometimes to casino players. And you don't even need to be a high roller to qualify. Now, the question that kind of bugs me, because there's no way to answer it, is, well, how much do you have to spend in a cruise ship casino to get free cruises? The answer is, it could be $200, it could be $20,000. I don't know. There's so many variables, but I do explain it all in my free casino cruise guidebook, which I have here and also linked down in the comments. Now, it does get a little complicated. It's not rocket science, but before you go and start throwing money into slot machines or at table games on a cruise ship, make sure you know what you're doing. And when it comes to these free cruise offers, they do usually cover the base fare, and you have to pay taxes, port fees, and gratuities. Now with me, my first foray into free casino offers, I took an Alaskan cruise with my best friend on Holland America Line. I only spent about $250 in the casino on slots, and I was shocked to come home, and just within a few weeks, I had a free cruise offer, and it was for a New Year's cruise, which is normally pretty expensive, and it was a 9 or 10-day cruise too. So that got me hooked on casino cruising, and I was never a casino person. I always thought it was stupid. And side note, casino gambling is stupid. So make sure you have a lot of discipline, make sure you do your homework, read my guide before you start dabbling in it, and never, never, never gamble more money than you can afford to lose, because the house always wins. Now, in my full guide, I explain how coin-in value works, what that means, how cruise lines track what's called ADT, which is average daily theoretical. And most importantly, if you already play in the casino, or if you do start playing in the casino and you start getting offers, how you can be smart and savvy, and you can parlay one free cruise offer to get a bunch more through matching services. And they'll take your cruise offer, say from Carnival Cruise Line, they'll go to the other cruise lines, and the other cruise lines will want to woo you from Carnival, so they'll start throwing free cruise offers at you too. That's how I play the game, and that's how I'm able to cruise free, and I explain it all in my guide. And also, even if you've never taken a cruise before, or you've cruised and you've never gambled in the casino, you may actually still qualify for a free cruise. But what you have to do is you have to submit an offer from a land-based casino. So if you gamble, say in Las Vegas, you have a free room from MGM Grand and some free play. Sometimes the cruise lines will even accept that. That signals to them that you are willing to spend money in a casino. They want to woo you to the cruise instead of land-based casinos. So they may match that offer and give you a free stateroom. But again, I break it all down and more in my detailed guide. So make sure you check it out if you want to learn how to cruise free. But also note, a lot of times these free cruises, they cost me a lot of money, depending on how Lady Luck is treating me or beating me up. And usually it's being beat up. Now that's it for this week's cruise news. If you found this helpful, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and always let me know what you think down in the comments. I love reading your comments. I try to reply. Sometimes I get super busy, but I love to hear what you think. I always read them. And as always, check out my website, profmelissa.com, for free port guides, cruise resources, and travel tips. And until next time, happy cruising.